at that? ExxonMobil Bank. Oh, here we are, people. That house is worse than mine. They weren't joking. Oh, she's rough. Very rotted. But yeah, a little bit of asbestos. There's even a vine growing inside. But due to council bullshit, the only move they can make is to renovate something that really, I don't know how it hasn't blown down. But anyway, that's the only option they got, and that needs a 5-year lifespan. My house has a 10-year lifespan. It's only done up good enough to last 10 years. This one only needs to be done up good enough to last 5 years before they fall back on their feet and build a straw bale house. Fortunately, we're on the grid, and the lawnmower's going. We've got peacocks here, and there are lots of plum trees and apple trees and those bizarre red pears, and we've had a few apricots. Oh, and hazelnuts. We think they're hazelnuts. So yeah, we made it, and just having a bit of bread with a bit of margarine here till we move a giant fridge they've got, because they've been using Tiddler here, and they've got a massive one, but they've got to put it in the right building. There's multiple buildings here, one of which was originally a hay shed and converted to a house and then condemned, which they're still sort of living in anyway, until we fix up the real shonky house that's got stone stumps and yeah. Anyway, so be it. I'm doing Chucky, eh? One lone chook. All the others got eaten or died or whatnot, but there's still one chooky left. Obviously the most cunning one, because it's made it. There's horsies. There's even a peacock standing on a little woodshed there. There's a little excavator there too. It's flipping tiny. How is this? Not joking, these are that tall. They're up to hip height. There's a whole stack of trees like this. 20 in fact that were cut down here. Most of them were burnt, but these couple have been kept. Absolutely massive. Honestly, they're up to me hip. When I'm standing in boots, they're already about an inch thick. And there was old horses over there. Dams here. These were originally only fed by the pump. There's a peacock going over here. Yeah, alright. Appears I have to go. Apparently there's a ram pump here, which I should be able to show you guys. Very interesting device, homemade and very powerful ram pump, but that'll be for another day. As you'd imagine, I got here about 2 o'clock, so I've been so busy assessing the house that we haven't done much else. Talk about loaded. Most of the trees around here are like this. I mean, they're absolutely pummeled in them. There's ones that... Oh, look, if there's one little twig, look at it. One's there, one's down here. Flipping unbelievable. Thing's almost going to snap under the weight of its own fruit. Look at that for a bend. There's so many fruit trees here, it's just about ridiculous, but old Horse and Co. sort of, well, you know, they like the apples anyway, the Horse, so yeah, there's plenty of apples. Well, a lot of apples. They won't last the old Horse. Yeah. It's actually a creek down there, that's where the ram pump come from. I think it's technically a river, but it's only very small. Oh, good blimey. Well, last night I had 6 hours sleep and woke up at 4:30 to drive here and get here about 2 o'clock-ish, 1:45, something like that. And yeah, we looked at the house and assessed the house, and then moved some fridges around, and that was flaming hard yakka. And he sort of, you know, realised I was a bit worn out, and I said I didn't have a terribly good lunch. Oh, you got to eat more food. I thought, flaming hell, I'm worn out from being so tired. But anyway, yeah, we then went and had some tea, and then well, the sun was starting to go down, but we now did some fruit trees. And I got a shot at, some of you may remember, a long time ago, probably a year and a half ago, I gave a hot water system a plug from a place called Country Outdoor Supplies. I thought he bought this one in Sydney. It turns out the exact bloke that I gave the plug to is exactly who he bought it from. Let me tell you, she has got plenty of pressure, the hot water system. It's a funny shower. You get the shower head and you got like a little tab at the back, like a little stick. It almost reminds me of those, trigger hose or whatever they call it. You water your garden with them, and it's like a trigger thing. You got a flap at the back, and you press that down, and then as soon as you release it, the water stops. They become common here during the 2009 drought because they wouldn't allow you to water with those, but not with a directly running hose at one point there. And it's sort of a bit like that you got this little tab on the back, plenty of pressure, very sort of tight together spray. It's not going to sort of be the sort of thing you can hold, you know, near to you and expect it. It's only a very small head. It's probably only, about an inch and a quarter across. And as a result, the spray is reasonably tight together, but very good pressure. It is quite warm, and the heating part, you know, kicks on and off as you push it. It comes through cold for a second, and then it's warm. And as you let go of it for a bit, you know, obviously the gas goes off, and then you turn it on again. It's cool, and then it's warm. But as a result, you've got a lot of pressure, and you can have a shower with probably only 10 litres of water, which is sort of, what's that like, 2.5 gallons or something like that. I noticed we only started with about that much, and my sister goes, "It'll be fine." And I thought, will it? And yeah, it's sort of different. It's definitely good for water conservation. It's definitely got plenty of pressure. Would I use it? If I could put a little elastic band around the back to hold it on? Quite possibly, yes. I think I would use it, but I wouldn't use it squirt like a trigger hose. I'd probably just put a zip tie on it or something and just let it go for it. Or have a zip tie sitting there that I could slip up, or elastic band that I could slip up over it, and turn it on. The way it works is you got a pump, and it reminds me a lot of my like this weed sprayer. Sorry, I'm a bit sort of that tired. With a weed spray, when you pull the trigger, the pump starts up. And then as you stop, the pump builds the line pressure up to 30 to 35 psi again. But it stops the pump because it's running the pressure switch. It's the same with the pump on this thing. The pump will start up only when you start using it. And when you release the trigger, the pump goes for another half a second or a second, and then it stops as well. If you leave it turned on, the whole time it just sort of goes bloop, and another like 20 seconds later you hear bloop, just to try and keep maintaining that pressure in the line sort of thing. But when you run it, you hear the pump kicking in, and then as you take it off, the pump goes for another second or so and stops running. But I really think I could make a go of it, so long as I had something just to hold the nozzle at the end. And it all fires up as soon as you pull that trigger at the end and the pressure in the line drops. Bang, it ignites the gas, off it goes, and it gives you a decent shower. But yeah, I think it may very well be a goer. I can fashion up something to hold the shower head. I've done that with the one for the wood hot water system. I've done that for the Coleman, and I could easily do it for this one. But if it's an accessory, I might just buy the accessory, and we'll see how we go. But it's well, I'll tell you this, I feel as clean as a whistle, and I'll tell you what, I do appreciate actually having some pressure over the Coleman, which pretty much doesn't have anything. But yeah, anyway, I've got to get to bed and off to a rip-roaring day tomorrow. I'll try to show you guys a bit of the house. I'm not too sure that he wants it really shown, but yeah, it is a lot like my house, age-wise. Condition-wise, in all honesty, there's parts of it that's probably equivalent to when I first went to my place. There's some parts that are actually a little bit worse than when I first went to my place, to be quite honest. There's blooming vines got into one side of it, and they've had trouble killing the vine, and parts of the house were disassembled to make a chicken coop, which was a bad move. They ripped some roof sheets off and ripped some floorboards out and all this sort of stuff. Some of the internal linings, they're quite literally just planks, and the planks are sort of of varying widths, and as a result you've got these gaps between them that sometimes are as big as half an inch. Not the tongue and groove palings that I'm used to. It's got quite a bit of that, but then it's also got quite a bit of those ones, the gaps in. But they're thinking of wallpapering over that to stop the draft, and of course we've got to put in your radiant insulation, like your silver paper, and then your bats, and it's a minefield of legality and bullshit, to be quite honest, which is why I'm sort of a bit hesitant to show any. Apparently we can put as many new beams in the walls as we want, not really a problem. The outer beams that face the outside have gone rotten from the water, but you can't replace them, you've only got to repair them, which means you've got to sort of make do with something that really should be in your wood heater or wood stove, and try to, you know, put another post in the ground underneath where it was to, you know, like veranda posts. You've got to basically dig a hole and put a post that's only a foot or foot and a half out of the ground and cut off the bottom of the crap one and then sort of connect the two together, because it's an outer load-bearing beam. It can't be touched. But the inner ones, oh, you can replace them with brand new stuff. It doesn't matter. But then they're fine because they haven't been exposed to weather, because they've got a roof over them. Real stupid. But welcome to the bureaucracy and bullshit that they've got to go through. in order to get, the idea here is to get it to a level where it's not going to be condemned as unsafe to live in. Being an engineer and having access to all the technical crap in the world, he knows how it's got to be done and what not. But here we are with, you know, you can replace as many beams as you want, but they're all fine because they've got a roof over them, but you can't touch the ones that are the veranda posts because that's an outer beam, even though it's gone rotten from the rain on it all the time. But, you know, he's basically got to get that to a condition where it's not condemnable, therefore they can live in it. And then, once they're living in that, it's like as though now there's already a livable house here. You can build a new one so long as you promise to demolish the old one or make it unlivable or something like that. It's all complete bullshit in reality. But and the other thing is, due to the fact that things are changing quite dramatically with his job and he's trying to leave the Air Force and get into the private sector, it's sort of it's one of these ones. Mine's got to last 10 years. This one's got to last 5 years till they're secure enough in, you know, working their finances out to go ahead and build this straw bale one that's already been designed, also designed by him. He's got books on codes and everything, but, you know, we're trying to tread legally, but within the lines. There's not much lines to tread in, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's the first sight of this house, I was just like, holy smoke, this joint needs a bulldozer. But then again, most of you would have said the exact same thing had you seen my house. And admittedly, this has probably got a bit more rotten wood in it than my house had, but nothing that can't be replaced. And he's since showed me all this blimmin' hardwood he's got. Even though we're just over the border in the next state, he's got this all from the capital back home, and it's all hardwood and it's all exceedingly well milled stuff, and generally speaking it would cost a damn fortune, but a lot of it is the shorter stuff, so he's got that reasonably cheap, and the second grade stuff. But they've got an amazing way, I should show it too, of making rustic weatherboards from an entire log, and you bring up the whole log, but it's got all these cuts through it, and all you got to do is cut off about 1.5 foot at the end, off each end, and all of a sudden you've got like a giant bit of dowel that's probably about 2 inches wide, and a whole bunch of rustic looking weatherboards. And what it is it's like a log, and they put it in a giant lathe sort of thing where they can turn it around, and they cut with, I forget the name of a saw. It's basically a you know, circular saw that runs along on some sort of a overhead I-beam or something like that, the whole length of this log, almost to the ends, but not quite, because it still wants to be held together for transport, which is why you cut the last 1.5 foot off each end. And then they turn a little bit more and cut it again. Turn a little bit more, cut it again. And it's almost like flower petals, pretty much, if you know what I mean. Each weatherboard is a flower petal, but the centre of your flower is just like this 2-inch bit of, or 3-inch bit of dowel, which that's just firewood. And, you know, the either ends are also firewood. But having said that, you can bring them up quite easily as whole logs, and then just cut the ends off, bang, you get a bunch of weatherboards. But I will show that because it's very intelligently milled. I would have never dreamed of someone doing it like that, because my first instinct is just to always sort of, you know, get a log and slice it into planks and then go from there. But this is sort of almost like a flower sort of design. But you'll see that, and it's very intriguing. And he's got a number of those, and they are first-rate ones, even though one or two of them are sort of split a bit. But yeah, that's what we'll be replacing some of the outsides with, and we're going to see how far we can get before I've got to go back, and he's got to go back to his work as well.